quite as valuable in my opinion. Now let's talk about this. First, Milani's Sig. Milani's Sig, when you just compare it to Witsit on the good rotation with Witsit buff and with the right Witsit buff, isn't that much better. But Witsit is 50% uptime, and one of the three buffs is completely worthless. Which means that unless you're playing in content that you can kill in one rotation, right? So in Abyss, Witsit is good enough. But in Siege and Onslaught, where content is designed around you taking like actually 5-6 rotations to clear it, Surf's Up makes it much bigger. So what about Astral Vultures? Well, what about Tosca's Sig? Tosca's Sig on Tosca is quite good, but also pretty good stat Sig on Linny. Like if you want to use it on other bow characters, like on Fizzle, for example, it's not going to be very good because the attack buff is conditional and triggering Swirl, and the charge attack buff doesn't help. So it's not the best, like, just general bow stat stick, but it is actually quite good on the bow user carries units right now. So it's I'd say, a pretty fairly average weapon to lose a 50-50 to if you're not actively looking for it. And then we've got this lineup. We have Flowery the Feathers, which is honestly probably the worst weapon here. It's an alright weapon for charge attack users, but it's not that amazing. It's just okay. Then we have Wave Riding Whirl, which is kind of an interesting one. At R5, you get 40% HP, and then another 48% HP if you have two Hydro characters, or just another 24 if you only have one other Hydro character. It's an ER weapon. Initially, I thought it was going to be good on Nvidia because I didn't realize there was a 15-second cooldown. The 15-second cooldown kind of makes this dog shit on Nvidia. You don't really trot this at the right time in his rotation. This is pretty much just a Milani weapon right now. The ER isn't the best stat, but it's not bad either. ER isn't the stat that you actually want to go out of your way to get on Milani, but if you end up with ER, it can end up pretty. If that's the case, then obviously it's good. Generally, it's not the but if you get 60 from your weapon, and it's a weapon that also gives you the offensive stats you want, then that's alright. And if you get the 48 and the 40, that's 88% HP, which is, well, a whole lot. When you compare it to her free-to-play option, the default one, right? The 32. However, ability of the character on this goblet is actually viable. Half a percent, 50%, it gives you converting 1-to-1. So this is basically 32 plus 41, right? So 70, 73 HP. Wave Riding Whirl at R5 is 88, and 60% additional ER. So just compared to the free-to-play option, it's much better. But, Wave Riding Whirl doesn't give Milani any of her offensive stats. That offensively, it gives you double the amount at R5 that it does at R5. Basically, Wave Riding Whirl is the sort of weapon that's kind of shitty to get generally, but if you end up getting a lot of copies of it, you're happy. The problem is, when it's on the batter with Surf's Up, it's kind of stupid because, like, if you go deep enough on the batter to get R5 Wave Riding Whirl, you're probably deep enough to get Surf's Up. So it kind of feels dumb. Anyway, these are the two worst weapons on the batter. Now let's talk about the Dang. Fruitful Hook. Fruitful Hook at R5, 32 sponge attack crit rate, 32 sponge attack damage percent, high base attack, attack substat. This is best in SWAT on Claymore Plunger. It's better than the 5-star weapon because there is no 5-star signature on a plunge Claymore character. All you have is just stat sticks, and this is just more stats than the 5-star stat sticks give you. At low refine, it's not as good, but it's still not that far behind the 5-stars because it's just such a good weapon overall. Compared to Serpent Spine, it refines better than Serpent Spine does. So at R1, it's pretty similar to R1 Serpent Spine, but R5 is better than R5 Serpent Spine. But unlike Serpent Spine, you don't have to deal with having to wait for the stack. All in all, if you're a domain player or if you're a Duluth player, Fruitful Hook is a pretty appealing weapon to get. But I don't think it's worth actively going for because I feel like they probably will give us a Claymore Plunger at some point, and when we do, we'll get a signature for that. And finally, we've got the two best 4-star weapons in the game, Sword and Fab Lance. The Fab weapons, just in general, like inherently, are incredibly broken. What makes Fab Sword and Fab Lance better than the other Fab weapons is just the amount of sword and polearm characters that care about using Favonius. If you look at Catalyst characters, you've got a decent amount that can use Favonius, but you have other support weapons, TTDS. And the existence of TTDS makes it so that Fab Codex is a lot worse because a lot of the characters that could use Fab Codex will want something else. For bow users, there's a bit more of them, but either they're not that good, or you don't play too many of them at the same time, and because you get a Favonius Warbow for free from completing the Mondstadt story, it makes Fab Bow just a worse weapon to see on the back. Like you'd want to use it on Diona, maybe on Yelan, on Goro, on Farazan, but like on Diona, it's not necessary. And then both Farazan and Goro's kind of dog shit. Farazan's pretty situational. So really, it's kind of just a Yelan weapon. Sometimes Goro. And then Claymores, oh boy. I don't think there is a good Claymore character that wants that. Maybe next patch with Ino, it'll be fine, but. And then we compare that to the polearm and sword users, right? Sword users, Singso, Kazuha, Lila if you want to shield her, Karina, Dahlia. There's other characters that use it, right? Kaya, Jean, Lynette, but they're generally not strong enough to matter that. And then for polearm characters, it's even worse, right? Feling, Rosaria, Candace, Shenhe, Zhongli, Yao Yao, Mika, Shovelers, Kashina, Yonsan, Iskafi, Inepa. It's, dude, you need so many five lances, man. So both five sword and five lancer, you're pretty happy to see them. Overall, I'd say that this is definitely a much better than average banner. The biggest problem is that both Casca's Sig and Milani's Sig are kind of carry exclusive weapons. They're not good stat stakes on characters like Fischl that just do off-field damage, but they are quite good on the characters that use them. And then you have a pretty powerful four-star lineup as well. Generally, I'd say that if you're trying to go for vertical investment on either Casca or Milani, I'd probably favor getting the SIG a little bit more than getting early cons. But a pretty significant contributing factor to that is the presence of these broken ass fab weapons. And if you already have enough fab lances and fab swords, then maybe you're better off going for the cons instead. Oh yeah, that's gonna be it for the banner review. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a thing or two. I'm kind of getting baited. My EU account is progressing well right now, but I still don't have Senna. I actually don't have any of these three characters, so for IT, this would be nice. But also just getting Bennett is kind of important. So I might get baited into going on this banner, but I hope I don't get Milani because I don't really want her on that account. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned a thing or two, and I'll see you guys in the next.
Time to wake up.
Guys, today a video about my name is Joseph Carter, and I am the Meat Man. When I was a senior in high school, I started learning about Guys, today a video about what are the best early constellations to get in Genshin Impact. By early constellations, I mean constellation 1 and 2, which I think are pretty relatable stopping points. For this video's tier list, I'm separating the constellation 1 and 2s because some characters have broken constellation 1s, but not so good constellation 2s, and vice versa. So I don't think merging the two is very useful for the purpose of showing the value of each constellation. Also, this video is more about how much of an upgrade each constellation is for each specific character, rather than who is the best character at constellation 1 or 2. And so here you will find out how much better your favorite characters can get by investing on them constellations wise. Obviously, I did research and calculations for everything in this video, but I want to show every single infographic because I don't want the video to become too heavy. So for some things, you have to take my word for it. So let's start. I'll hide them. Constellation 1, he reduces his elemental skill cooldown for every projection attack during his rotation. He usually doesn't need it if you do rotations right. It's more like a quality of life thing on most teams. On some teams, it can come in handy, but definitely not something that is always usable. So I would just put it in okay-ish. The Constellation 2 is another story because it increases his elemental mastery during his rotations by quite a bit, and so it increases his damage output by a decent amount. So, decent upgrade. Albedo, both the Constellation 1 and Constellation 2 make the burst better. Like the Constellation 1 makes him recover energy, the Constellation 2 makes the burst deal more damage. You don't want to use the burst on teams with Albedo, so just don't. Arlecchino, I like her constellations a lot. The constellation one increases her damage by quite a bit and also gives her interruption resistance, which on teams that don't have a shielder like Citlali is very usable. So I think it's a strong upgrade. The Constellation 2 makes her deal a lot of damage at the start of the rotations because it makes her deal a big hit when she claims her mark on opponents, so when she starts attacking. And it feels very nice because Arlecchino lacks a nuke at the start of the rotation. She can't use a burst like that, so the Constellation 2 replaces that element for her. But it's just a strong upgrade in my opinion. It's not a transformative one. A Constellation 1 reduces the cooldown of her elemental skill when she attacks. It's not a big deal. It's nice to smoothen out some rotations, but it's not really a big deal, so don't. And Constellation 2 Infinity 1 to me is a very good upgrade because it's a more consistent damage increase for her than a lot of other constellations in the strong upgrade tier, and also gives her interruption resistance, so that's pretty important in some compositions for her. Furious Constellation 1 is also a very good upgrade to me because compared to somebody like Emily's Constellation 1, it's definitely more impactful for Chiori than the C1 is for Emily. I want to lower Nilu's constellation too because Lava in Kate basically does the same but a little bit worse. And since the resistance reduction effects don't stack too well on top of each other, once Llama joins the team, this constellation 2 will lose a bit of value. Honestly, Nefa C1 and Emily C2 are two situational increase for her, which in Solution 1 is very good in my opinion. It increases the damage over first normal attack by a lot, so it's a very good frontal damage increase for her, which in a lot of speedruns helps her quite a lot. So, in my opinion, very good upgrade. Constellation 2 basically extends the elemental skill duration and makes it easier to get her normal attack stacks at first, which in the worst case scenario are pretty good quality of life benefit for her. And in the best case scenario, adds an additional normal attack to her rotations in the case you can maximize it, and against bosses where it's easier to get stacks. And in that case, it really increases your damage by quite a lot. So I don't know, decent or strong upgrade. I would say strong because the quality of life is excellent for a character like Monami, and it can also add a lot of damage. So yeah, I would say strong upgrade. And Hida, the Constellation one basically improves before I move on, let me remind you that if you enjoy my channel and works like pills collection her. Characters like Arlecchino that deal a lot of hits per rotation can make use of this better than characters like Mabuika that deal not so many hits per rotation. So I think it's a decent upgrade overall. The Constellation 2 is broken. It makes her give the active character and more elemental mastery. It increases the resistance reduction to Hydro and Pyro she provides by 20%. It's just very strong. It's a very strong supporting constellation that makes her team much better. So to me, it's a game-changing upgrade because it's a very strong supportive constellation. And the Constellation 1 makes her deal more damage, quite a bit actually, 18, 19% I think more. So I don't know if decent or strong, probably decent because it's just a straightforward damage increase for her rotations, but nothing insane. The Constellation 2 is just like that also, but it also gives her interruption resistance, which for her is very important because on most of her teams, actually, most of her best teams, she doesn't have a shield there, so it comes in handy really. I know its Constellation 1 is sometimes usable, sometimes not. It increases the normal attack speed, but that's only really usable on some specific rotations for its teams. Like, I would say it's okay overall, but not really a consistent damage increase. Constellation 2 is interesting to me because it increases its damage. Constellation 1 makes her give cryo characters on the team a 60% crit damage increase, which is great, but only very good on teams that have a cryo main DPS, like Skirk, Ayaka. On teams like Nibblets, is really not that big of a deal. So to me, it's just a strong upgrade. Constellation 2 is kind of similar to Citlali's Constellation 1 because it makes her give the active character 3 heals that can only be triggered by cryo damage again, so not hydro damage, which is a shame. But overall, it's really not that big of a damage increase, so who cares? Decent upgrade, I would say. Yula, the Constellation 1 makes her deal more damage, but not a lot more, so some elemental skill cooldowns, so the full version elemental skill cooldowns, but it's not a big deal for a rotation, so don't pay now. The Constellation 1 gives her burst 150 Vamper right away without requiring healing on cast, so it translates to a lot of damage bonus right away for the whole team, which is about a 10 to 11% damage increase on teams that can fully take advantage of damage bonus, so that's pretty nice, because it also increases the limit of Vamper it can store, so it's a pretty good damage increase. The Constellation 2 makes her generate Vamper stacks much faster on HP loss or healing, so basically it makes it trivial to max it increases their HP, which increases their damage. So to me, it's a game-changing upgrade because it really expands her team situations and their flexibility on, and it makes her much more consistent. And in most scenarios, maximize on them. It increases their damage by a lot because of overpower. In my opinion, it's a game-changing upgrade, mainly because of the first part. Ganyu, the Constellation.
This tiny device is and works even when your AC fails during power outage. Smaller than a lunchbox fools any.
In my opinion, it's a game-changing upgrade, mainly because of the first part. Constellation 1 is basically just more damage and some energy refund, so decent upgrade. Constellation 2 is an extra card to her elemental skill, which is not that useful most of the time, in my opinion, so don't. Utao, Constellation 1 is very notorious. It makes her charge attacks not consume stamina when used, which is a big benefit for her, and also an objective damage increase all the time, pretty much. It becomes a smaller damage increase.
データの時間 さあ光り輝くがいい目も舌も満足させてあげる
charge damage dealer, like slates. In that case, it becomes a pretty good supported constellation as well, so it's a strong upgrade in my opinion. The constellation 2 makes her deal a lot more damage, it gives her an additional lunar charge rate that is very strong, and it makes it worth to give the whole team a shield, so in some rotations, it can be usable that part, and in general, it's a very strong damage increase. The Constellation 1 makes him generate more stacks, the charge attacks, damage increase, so basically, even if you take advantage of making a rotation from okay. The Constellation 2, I like it quite a bit more because it makes him recover a lot more energy, and critical energy is a big issue on teams that are not good with shield damage distinctly, so it's good armor-wise, it's a damage increase, to me it's a big
手加減なしよ
in most cases not a team damage increase because using it first and then using another elemental skill is like 4 to 5 seconds of animation time total, which most teams don't want to do. So it's like okay, so when you need to get into the Constellation 2 needs to give the active character elemental mastery when it's working in the field, basically, which default again is a problem. In some locations, you don't want to use it first because other than doing damage, it's not really it's better to trade it and rotation. And also, this elemental mastery, many schemes aren't affected by this increase, so it's a great but not substantial. It also increases its own mastery, so it makes him give more damage to himself. A lot more. Yeah. This is the full constellation one big damage increase upgrade. Constellation 2, in my opinion, is fantastic. Again, it's a big damage increase, but it also reduces dendro resistance on opponents hit by cannons, which is a good damage increase for the team if you also have a melee. And it also makes his first cannon your daily which is a game-changing upgrade, in my opinion, but not to the extent for the first year. And put them in very good first it's just a really good calculation. Calculation 1 is based on RNG, which is not great. Okay. Constellation 2 is very interesting because it makes an elemental skill reduce defense on opponents. This gives us some pretty nice support in the roles of the speedrun specifically because you just need to use the skill, so it's very fast in consideration. And also, I would say it's decent. Constellation 1 makes the deal a bit more done. And the only thing to use the token is like people and stuff like that. 例の時間よ例の舌も満足させ歌え僕の物語人類限界に沈めさらに一気パパそうよ人類進みのよ契約食品に甘く最高の一品よ光り輝くがいい冷凍の時間ゴシゴシ静かに無にキス Constellation 1 is not complete specifically for the season, but they will also be interested too. Maybe we'll keep Constellation 1
僕を抱えよ歌え僕の名のもとに食前に甘いものを愛のように羽ばたけ手加減なしよ
The Constellation 1, in my opinion, is very good because nature generates arts faster, like the Constellation 2, and also gives a
口封じは任せたからね
which is very beautiful. Constellation is a very good upgrade because you can
世界の熱狂の渦に
Constellation 2 is insane. Maybe the best constellation in the game at the moment because it increases their damage output by a lot, and that's very relevant for teams because other teams feel like a hyper carry with 90% of all of the team damage, so that's very relevant. I think it's a game-changing upgrade. The Constellation 1 is very good in my opinion. It increases the damage over first normal by a lot. So it's a very good frontal damage increase for a lot of speedruns quite a lot. In my opinion, very good upgrade. Constellation basically extends the elemental skill duration and makes it easier to get a normal stats first, which in the worst case scenario, pretty good quality of life benefit for forward. And in the best case scenario, adds an additional normal rotation in case you can maximize it and like against offsets where it's easier to get stats. And in that case, like it really increases your damage by quite a lot. So I would say strong because the quality of life is excellent for a character like Mani, and it also increases the damage of all the teams except burning, because for burning it doesn't do a lot, like for Kinetic burning specifically. So I'll say since it's still a very good supportive constellation, but yeah, the fact that actually gives sometimes, but yeah, I would say like it's just okay. Constellation 2 gives a crit rate, which is a decent upgrade, a decent damage increase overall. Hello, into strategy to conquer it. Start playing because there's also a 150-day sign-in
製造
event
プロ
where
グ
you
ラ
can
ム
get
実
up.
行中
Everyone's making a
だか
banner
らプ
guide
ログに基
video.
づき一つお願いがあるのですがモラ、ネジ、歯車、鉱石、おもちゃ、キャラメル、
You know,
お
to
菓子
add a
髪留
Uber
め、
syndrome,
靴下、
which I will
サ
call
ン
the
ダルな
neck.
ど小さいものを放置しないようご協力ください
Hello and welcome to my channel. And that's what's kind of crazy. What's really interesting about that haircut, so double.
Sure, but Tsaritsa's helped him let go of his past obsessions.
Hello and welcome.
「戦闘データを更新ご安心ください今回は天井を吹き飛ばしたりしませんから」
Stygian Onslaught is by far the hardest endgame that we have ever faced. They allowed final banners for all of thousands of 5-star reviews and excellent customer service. And right
清掃プロの実行中過去の記録
Hey there, this is a very simple follow-along video on the daily run that I'm doing to grind artifact XP and Mora. I have a lot of characters to work towards, especially to make content, and this is the thing that is saving me. It's a quick 11-minute job for basically 100k Mora or XP that you can run every single day. 5.8 gave us an incredible new area for this route that not only has a lot of points close to teleports, but also Mora on every single spot. The route will start with the daily 11-minute one for 100k, but then it will continue for a longer one for about 20 minutes. That will total 123k in Mora or XP. You don't need to keep doing this one, but in case you do need the extra push, please do. I want further spots for quick preparation or a lot of time into my cannons, more extension even by co-op. Yes, those are a thing, but they can be quite annoying. Also remember that you can choose to keep the